theyeshiva.net.
This mimer is in Likkutei Torah Bamidbar. You see Daf Ches Amud Beis, Ches column 2 or page 15, the second column. It opens up with a pasuk from Hosea, Perek Beis, the end of Hosea Perek Beis, chapter 2 of Isaiah, which really concludes the Haftarah of Parshas Bamidbar. That is why it's in Likkutei Torah Bamidbar, because it's the final pasuk of the Haftarah of Parshas Bamidbar. And as you know, many also say it every morning during Hanachas Tefillin when they put on Tefillin. Not everybody here knows about this, but this it's beautiful, beautiful psukim from the end of chapter 2 of Hosea. And as we shall see, the theme is also connected to Shavuos. Now, the Balatanya said this mimer in the year Tov Kuf Nun Ches. Tov Kuf Nun Ches would be 1798. And he said it at the chasana of his son. He had 3 sons. His oldest son was named Rabbi Ber, who succeeded him as the second Rebbe in Chabad, known as the Mittler Rebbe. He had a second son, whose name was Reb Chaim Avraham, and he had a third son, his youngest son, whose name was Reb Moshe. At the chasana of Reb Moshe, he said this mimer. The pasuk begins, Veiras techli la'olam. Veiras techli b'tzedek, u'b'mishpat, u'v'chesed, u'v'rachamim, Veiras techli b'amunah, v'yadatas Hashem. Veirastich means I will betroth you. We have the concept of erusin, which means betrothal, kiddushin, marriage. The official legality of marriage is called erusin. So I will betroth you forever. I will marry you for eternity. I will betroth you b'tzedek, with justice, uv'mishpat, with law, with kindness, with compassion. I will betroth you be'emunah, with faith, v'yadatas Hashem, and you'll know Hashem, and that's the end of the psuk. So he teaches here. Hine Knesset Yisrael shehi mekor kol neshamas Yisrael nikra kala. You'll see why this was said at a chasana. First of all, the pasuk begins with the concept of erusin, of kiddushin, of betrothal. But the theme here is a theme of marriage, which is also the theme of Shavuos. As the Mishnah says, the Gemara in Maseches Taina says, Yoim chasunasoi. It's a matan Torah. The matan Torah really represents a chasana, a kiddushin, a betrothal. So he starts off in Knesset Yisrael, Shemakar Kol Neshamas Yisrael, Nikras Kala, Al Shem HaPasuk, Kol Sanafshi, Kamesh Kosev Al Ishich Chukosech. Knesset Yisrael, and when he says right away, what do I mean by Knesset Yisrael? Knesset Yisrael, we don't just mean a minion of Jews, a gathering of Jews. Knesset Yisrael really means the source where all Neshamas Yisrael come from. It would be like the mother, the womb. The source, the root of all Neshamas Yisrael is called Knesset Yisrael, because that's the place where all the souls are gathered, where they converge. They're really one. So when you say Knesset Yisrael, you're not talking about Klal Yisrael or Am Yisrael. You're taking here the Jewish nation and you're tracing back the Klal Yisrael as a collective entity where all the souls converge into one. That's called Knesset Yisrael, the source of all Neshamas Yisrael. That source is called Kala. They're called Kala. Why Kala? The pasuk says in Tehillim, "Kol son nafshi lechatzris beis Hashem." Tehillim Pei Daled. My soul yearns. Nichsefa v'gam kol son nafshi. Kol son means my heart, my soul goes out. Sigetois, with a yearning, with a pining, with a desire. Kamashakasav, the pasuk says in Bereshis, "Vel ishech chukasech." He tells Chava, your craving will be to your husband. That's why it's called a kala. Kala represents a yearning, and not just a yearning, segetois. It's a very deep, profound yearning where you melt away in the yearning. It's a very deep form of yearning. Chukasech, your desire will be to your husband. What's the connection? Why is Knesset Yisrael given this name? Because the chukasech, your husband, your chukas to your husband. Chukka is desire, craving. Her chukka, her desire is to connect to her source, to have dvekas, to be one, to cleave to her source, which is the life of life, the life of all life. There's life, but the life of life, that's her source. Beklois hanefesh, by the soul going out. Kamashakasav, as the pasuk says, also in Tehillim, Elikim al damilach al techrash val tishket keil. Elikim, don't be quiet. Dam means quiet. Doimim. Don't be quiet. Don't be silent. Don't be restful. So on one level, it means David HaMelech is like God. Show up. Protest the evil of the world. Don't be quiet in the presence of heinous crimes. In Nister, in the world of spirituality, Elikim is speaking about to the Pchin of Elikim in every person. Don't be quiet of your yearning. Never stop yearning to connect to your true depth. Never give up, as we would say today, never give up on your yearnings. Never give up on your dreams. Don't repress your trukas. Don't kill your desires. Don't destroy your desires. You know, some communities or some families have a chush to kill people's desires, to kill people's trukas, to snuff out people's dreams. The pasuk says, "Al damilach, al techrash val tishket." Don't silence your true desires, your true yearnings. In many ways, in order to eliminate negative desires, some people think the best way is just to kill all desire. When you kill all desire, you won't have any negative desires. But for that matter, if you want to do that, you could just kill the person. And then b'chlal, you won't have any problems, right? That's one of the, I told somebody once, the best solution you have in chinuch is just kill everybody, and then everybody will behave. They'll go straight to Olam Haba. You want them to live, so why do you want them to live half dead? You want them to live. So al techrash val tishket kill. You have to discover what your real desire is. That's what you have to discover. But you don't destroy the trukal, ishech, trukasech. That is what makes the soul tick.
So lobotomy is not the way to go.
So does Klal Yisrael talk to itself?
It's David HaMelech speaking, it seems like, to the midas elikim in each person. Yeah, in Knesset Yisrael, yeah. This is Klal, v'chein bepratis. This is Knesset Yisrael. V'chein bepratis. Now let's speak individually. What do we mean individual? Every person. Knesset Yisrael is the way you are part of one collective entity, part of a klal, part of a knesset, because it's the mucker of all neshamas Yisrael. It's like the mother's womb where the whole family comes from, so to speak. But now we go by pratius. Neshamas kol echad v'echad Yisrael in the souls. That's why it's now in the plural. It's not. It's neshamas because it's different souls. Because it's the way each soul comes into every person of every Jew. If the pasuk says in Mishlei, Neir Elokim Nishmas Adam Chayfes Kol Chadrei Betan. Shlomo HaMelech says, Neir Elokim Nishmas Adam. The soul of the human being is a lamp of God, is a flame of Hashem. Neir Elokim. What's pshat? Sheyesh b'tiva lalas l'mayla ka'od ha'neir u'chishalevis l'meila l'dav kabayis barach b'klois ha'nefesh mamash. The comparison of Shlomo HaMelech between a neshama, a soul, and a neir is not stam coincidental. What's the comparison to a neir? That a neir, like we learned many times, has the nature, the flame has the nature to always ascend. It never ever relaxes. It always yearns to ascend upwards. It's dancing, it's swaying, it looks like it's trying to kiss heaven and to depart from the wick. Like a shalhevis, like a flame that goes up on its own. So every soul is a neir elikim, meaning it's always yearning to have dveikus with Hashem. It's always craving, it's trying to lick heaven, to dance, to sway, to kiss the divine, to touch the divine. B'klois hanefesh mamash, its own nature, its soul goes out to want to have this dveikus. But now the pasuk continues. Of course, he's now going to give a metaphoric, symbolic interpretation of that famous pasuk. El ishech chukasech. Your craving will be to your husband, v'hu yimshel bach, and he will rule over you. So what does this mean spiritually? Chava yearns for Adam. Knesset Yisrael yearns for dveikus with Hashem. Ach v'hu yimshel bach shabal karchach atachai. He will rule over you, as the Mishnah says, Bal karchach atachai, that you have to live. Mitzad, the Isha herself, all she wants is, the soul wants to melt away and become part of the husband. Become part of the husband. The real quintessential, this is not PC material here. But that doesn't mean it's not true. It's true. Usually true, right? What happened was, men abused their authority for many generations, for thousands of years. So finally, feminism emerged and said, "Shine, we don't need them. We don't need our husbands anymore. As one famous feminist said, women need men like fish need bicycles. Okay. So they created a generation of women who feel we're independent people.
A woman in the New York Times, Maureen Dowd, wrote a book called Are Men Necessary? It's a best-selling book. Are Men
Very good.
Necessary?
Are men necessary? Well, we all know the answer, right? You can ask your shliger. You can ask your mother-in-law if you're necessary. So, but let's say in a world where there is real trust. In other words, the husband knows how to be a real husband. The husband knows how to be a real husband. So the nature of Ishech Chukasich is that a woman wants to be able to trust her husband and wants to be able, so to speak, to melt away and embraced in the confident embrace of her husband. Spiritually, what does this mean? That the neshama, by its nature, it wants to just melt away in klois hanefesh. But v'hu yimshel bach, the job of the husband is to say, no, you have to remain independent of me. You have to remain distinct of me. Bal karchach atachai. You cannot melt away in dveikus and ein sof. You're forced to live. Hachayis rotzei v'shoiv leida de lislabish beguf. The pasuk in Yecheskel says, "Hachayis rotzei v'shoiv." So you hear what the husband has to, the real husband, what he has to convince his wife.
You are.
That you are. You have to be separate. You have to have your boundaries. You have to have your own mitzvahs. This is deep stuff. Hachayis rotzei v'shoiv. But for this, you have to have a real marriage. Because usually it's like fakert. It's like you swallow me up. Who are you? I'm my own person. Get out of my life. This is a whole different mahalach. This is a neshama that really trusts. So Bal Karchach Atachai v'hu Yimshel Bach, you have to go back. Yecheskel says the chayis is always rotzoi and shoiv. Rotzoi means running. Rotzoi, like rotz, or the word rotzoi, you want, and shoiv means retreat. You have to come back. There's rotzoi and shoiv. The heartbeat. There's the contraction and the expansion. One is the pchin of rotzoi, and one is the pchin of shoiv. You run and you retreat. Later, the lislabish beguf. And therefore, even here below, after it comes into the body, this is all we're talking lamaila. This is the main avodas adam. The main union of avodas adam is to be able to cultivate this pre-existing nature in the soul. Again, he's paraphrasing here from Tillim. Nichsefa v'gam kolsa nafshi lechatzres beis Hashem libi ufsari yiranu al kel choy tehillim peidalid. Here he literally paraphrases it. Nichsefa v'gam kolsa nafshoy, that his soul should yearn and should go out mamish elav yizbarach to him. This is ikir avodas ha'adam, to be able to help people to discover within themselves the nichsefa v'gam kolsa nafshoy to elikus to godliness. This is how he defines ikir avodas ha'adam. People should be able to have a passionate, emotional, intimate relationship with God. In this concept of klois hanefesh, of kol sanafshi, there are two completely separate inyanim, pchinas. And these are the two brides that the Gemara discusses. The second parak of Masechta Ksuvos, Daf Yud Tezayin Amid Beis Yitzayin Amid Aleph. You remember the Gemara, Tonu Rabbanon Keitzad Meragdin Lifnei Hakala. How do you dance in front of a kala? Yeah? What do you say? Of course, there's a debate, the machlokes. B'Shamai Omrim, kala, even a simple thing like dancing in front of a kala, it's also not so posh. Why? Depends how you define what a kala is. Shnei B'chinas kala. B'Shamai says kala kamay shehi. Every kala you have to dance in front of the kala kamay shehi according to who she is. Meaning, you have to extol her by her individual virtues. Every kala has her milas, her beautiful qualities. No, there's a generic text for everybody. Kala no v'chasuda. She's no, she's gorgeous, she's beautiful, and she's chasuda, she's gracious. She's full of chesed. So there's a whole machlokes there. We once learned a maim in Likkutei Torah on this Keitzam Rak Lifnei Hakala. also said at a chasana, a grandchild's wedding, in the Likkutei Torah Shashira. So there's some similarities here. So over there, so what did Beis Shammai tell Beis Hillel? What if, in Bemechilas Kvoida, what if she's not non-chasuda? What if she's a tzatzka? What if she's not chasuda? What if she's not Miss Gracious America? What if she's not? Yeah, not everybody is. And what if chigeres or summa? She's lame. She's blind. Find something else. Oh, okay, that's what Beis Hillel answers. So Torah says you're not allowed to lie. So Beis Hillel says, like you said, somebody goes to buy a cloak from the marketplace, and you look at it and you think it's as ugly as the devil, but they think it's beautiful. Should you tell them it's beautiful, or should you tell them it's horrible? You say it's beautiful. They can't return it. Your das has to be mixed with people. So it's a machlokes. Like everything, Allah is like Beis Hillel, Kala Nova Chasuda. That's why in the song, Keitzad Merakton, they deleted Das Beis Shammai. Keitzad Merakton Lifnei Kala, Kala Nova Chasuda. That's not what the Gemara says. Or it says Beis Shammai and Kala Kamoishe. Okay. But the Niggin, I think the Gemara came before the Niggin, no? I'll call upon him. From L'chayda, you read the Gemara, it's a machlokes, Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel. The way he phrases it is already a limud, is already a shir. Shnei b'chinas kala she'uskuru b'Gemara. Not stam, he brings, it's two types of kala. You have to learn a machlokes. It's not, they're arguing what to say to a kala. They're talking about two different kalas. It's not stam. He's talking about one kala, he's talking about another kala. There's a kala kamoishehi, and there's a kala nova chasud. It's two kalas. So when you say that the tafkid of a neshama, the main avoid is klois hanefesh, nichse v'gam kol sanafshi, you have to define what it is. There's two types of kalas. Valzen the kala achas, one kala is kala nova chasuda, that's Beis Hillel's kala. Alzen nemar kol sanafshi l'chatzis Hashem. On this kala, the pasuk says in Tehillim, my soul yearns to the courtyards of Hashem. Kol sanafshi l'chatzis beis Hashem. Habeis kala kamoishehi. The kala the way she is. Afilu chigeres esuma. Even if she's lame or blind spiritually. Al zen nemar. And this is the second half of the pasuk. Libi ufsadi yirananu al kelchai. There's a pasuk in Tehillim. Now you have to remember the whole pasuk because that's the theme here. Kol sanavshi lechatzes beis Hashem. Libi ufsadi yirananu al kelchai. Literally, my soul yearns to the courtyards of the house of the Lord, of Hashem. My heart and my flesh dance to the living God. So the Baal Tanya teaches that the two parts of the pasuk are describing two kalas. There's the kol sanavshi lechatzes beis Hashem is one kala, that's Beis Shammai's kala. That kala is always beautiful and gracious. Kala nova chasud. But then there's kala kamoishehi. Kala the way she is. Kala kamoishehi is afilu chigeres, afilu summa. And here you say libi of sari iranu al kelcha. You can't say kol sanavshi lechatzes beis Hashem. It's a different part of the pasuk. What's the explanation in this? Here starts a long beer. He now goes off the subject l'chayda and he's going to come back. Beer in the explanation in this is kihine ha'oisis nikrayim avonim. In Kabbalah, letters are called stones. Oisis are called stones with which you build. You need rocks to build edifices. You need letters to build sentences, paragraphs, books, speeches. Combinations of letters are called homes and courtyards. Two rocks build two homes. 3 rocks build 12 homes. 4 rocks build 24 homes. And then he goes and goes and goes and he says you're not going to be able to continue counting. What he means is, you have letters. What's the difference between a brilliant article and a lousy article? What's the difference between an extraordinary book and a foolish book that belongs in the garbage? What's the difference? They both use the same alphabet. But the way the letters are put together, it's always about the tziruf. The brilliant orator, the extraordinary writer takes the letters, but the way he constructs a phrase, a sentence, a paragraph. You could kiss it. The choice of words, the order of words, the build-up. It's not the letters, it's always the same letters. Mozart and your 6-year-old have the same piano, the same 88 keys. One person sits down, right? That's already a profession. That's Mozart, yeah. And then you have somebody else sits down, same keys, right? Same fingers, same keys. But it's magical, it's heavenly, it's ecstasy.
How does it sound?
Hashem is here, Hashem is there, is Mozart? Okay. Right, we'll have to brush up on that. What about dun 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 dun. Okay. So, right, that's an example in notes of musical notes. But here we're talking about oisius, same concept. It's always about the tziruf. It's what you do with it. You can have 2 architects, 2 contractors. They have the same materials, same space. One person takes the space, takes the materials, but the combinations are completely different. So the Sefer Yetzirah says, oisius are avonim. That's how you have to look. Now this is an important idea. People sometimes ask, how do you prepare a presentation? How do you prepare a speech? You don't prepare a speech. You're putting up a building. You're building. You're an architect. You're a contractor. Don't say you're making a speech. How do you put up a building? You're putting up a building. That's what you're doing. It's letters. It doesn't have the same, and it's less expensive.
The end in mind.
Huh?
The end in mind is very
First of all, the end in mind always. And structure. Structure. People get up to speak. I don't know why they asked me to speak. You ever hear that? Or after all the speakers, I have nothing to say. So don't say it. But suddenly, 45 minutes later, he still has what to say. Yeah. Imagine you come to your architect and you say, I don't have what to say. Really? So why are you doing it? So he's telling us here that oisius are avonim. Every letter is a rock. You don't waste a rock. What are you doing with the rock? Where is it going? How is it being put together with another rock? And what are you creating? Specifically, the Sefer Yetzirah says, 2 rocks build 2 homes, meaning Aleph Beis could be Av or Ba. They're both homes. Av is a home, a father. Ba means he came, also a home. 3 letters already build 6 homes, right? 3 letters built, I believe 6. 3 letters build 6 homes. Once you already have 4 letters, 4 letters I think is 24, and 5 is already 120. And then once you go a few letters after that, you're already building a crazy amount of homes.
Factorials, 1 times 2 times 3
Right,
times 4.
right. Famous story with the chess game, you know, he has to be rewarded double.
A piece of rice.
Yes, a piece of rice. So oisius are bottom. But now he takes this metaphor deeper. There's 2 types of homes. There's batim and there's chatzeres. Both have to be built. Courtyards and homes. One is open roofs, one is closed roofs. But he says we have to understand that oisius are doimim legabe mohus hasech. Oisius hadibur legabe the mohus of ideas is doimim. It's inanimate. It's silent. What do we mean? On one hand, oisius convey the message, but they don't necessarily convey the message. You remember when you learned Mishnayos Baal Peh? Everybody knows Ashrei by heart. Do they know what it means? You can have all the oisius, but you don't have anything. You could learn things by heart. You have the oisius, but you don't understand. You can hear the letters, you can hear the words, but you don't necessarily get the life of it. So there's the oisius, and then there's what the oisius convey. The energy of the oisius. The mohus haseichel is the idea. The oisius are the letters you're using. You could read a Gemara, you could read a Tosfos. You have all the letters. You read it right, but you don't get it. The oisius themselves are like doimim. They're like inanimate matter, just like a rock. That's why they're called rocks. Avonim are essentially doimim. A house needs somebody to live in the house. The avonim need a chiyus. The fact that there's so many divisions of worlds, literally without number, myriads and myriads of levels distinct from each other. The pasuk says in Shir Hashirim, "Alam is ein mispar." So Chazal say, "Olam is ein mispar." He doesn't even finish it. The same is true when you speak about personalities, angels, souls of tzaddikim. Nobody is alike. Everybody's mind is different. Everybody's emotions are different. Nobody's ever alike. It all comes from different combinations of letters. All the worlds come from Dvar Hashem, from Hashem's words. But how the letters combine, everything is different. And because there are infinite types of combinations, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Aleph, right? Aleph, Gimel, Beis, etc., there are infinite types of combinations and the way you configure the letters. That's why there are endless types of worlds and creatures and souls, and everything is different. And the Oisias themselves, Legabe, the essence of the source from which they come out, are called the Daimim, silent. Hine Gam Ekoidem Visharsham Ba'olam HaTzilus. So again, okay, so what do we have until now? Everything is Dvar Hashem. But what type of Dvar Hashem? That depends on the tziruf of the letters. That's the explanation. It says, Ba'asarim Amoris Nivra Ha'olam. The world was created through 10 utterances. But when you look at Parshas Bereshis, you have 10 things that were created, but there's so many more details. How were they created? You have light, you have water, you have the heavens, you have the sun and the moon and the stars, the galaxies. You have mammals and fish, but you have... What about an Evan? What about a rock? Where's that in Asarim Amaris? You don't have an Evan in Asarim Amaris. It's also created. The answer is, these Asarim Amaris are 10 general utterances, but each one of these letters goes through tzirufim. It goes through different, each word goes through different combinations. So the very same energy is then divided and subdivided and subdivided into creating all of reality, even in its light, in all of its pratim, in all of its details, and all of its nuances. So everything comes from Isis. The question is only the tziruf of the Isis, the combination. And the difference between one and another is always the tziruf, it's the combination of letters. What you would call today the DNA of existence. So to speak, digital letters, it's all different letters. The question is only the combination of letters.
So where's the stone? Evidence not mentioned. The stone's it's written. It's carved into stone.
What's carved into stone?
And it serves to do that. Stone.
No, I'm saying in the 10 utterances of creation, there's no mention of stone.
Oh.
So when was stone created? I'm just giving an example.
So how does he answer that question? I don't understand. When was stone created?
So the answer is that all the Isis of the Asarim Amaris, yeah, go through substitutes and sirufim. You can have the same word, but a different combination is the same energy, but it's in a different combination, so something else comes out.
It's just not all mentioned in terms of the...
There's a reason it's not mentioned, because these are general energies, and then it comes through this, and there's gematria, and there's chilufim, and there's tmuris, where letters get substituted with each other. Even when you go back to the source of everything, all the Dvar Hashem, all the energy, you go back to the source in the world of Atzilus, the Iyu v'Garmoyichat, which he and his Midas are one. Shem P'chinas Alakus, everything over there is godliness. And the light of the Ein Sof is undefined, it's abstract, it's divested from any definition, and from any midah, from any measurement, and from any boundary, any border. Im alcohols, and nonetheless, because the oil is a source for all the worlds that come out from Atzilus. Yesham lamayla bekoyach kol kach koiches v'amshachas sheyishavim and b'chinas ischalkus oil l'chbel mamash. In Atzilus, you have in potential all the koiches, all the faculties, and all the hamshachas, that from there could come out the whole division of all the worlds b'pa'al mamash. Yes, in Atzilus it's still all elikus, divine energy, but over there it's ultimately the mucker for everything else. So you have there in potential all the different koiches and hamshachas are going to come out. Ukamashal oisis adibur, ba'oiden b'kayach achmasai. Take the letters of your speech when they're still in your intelligence, before you spoke them. They're there, but they're not there b'poil, they're there b'kayach. Ulagabe ein soif baruch hu atzmei ha-soif of kol almin, and the Gabi Ein Soif itself in Atzilus, which transcends all the worlds. Gam heim nekrayim b'chinas oisius. Even in that state, they're called oisius. Shu b'chinas doimim ka'avonim she'eb madrega tachtoina sheba'asiyah k'ma shekasav kulam b'chachmasis. Over there also, they're called oisius. Why? Because they're like doimim. They're the lowest level of asiyah. That's why we say in Davening from Tehillim, kulam b'chachmasis. You made everything with chachma. So literally it means you made everything with wisdom, but he teaches what we call chachma, you still call a sisa. Even chachma is considered like physical action. It's called a sisa. Why? It's already called avonim. It's called oisius, even though it's really chachma. It's called godliness. It's called godliness because it's infinity that is not yet limited in a vessel. You still can't compare it to the Ein Sof itself. The Isis would be like a ray that comes from the essence of Ein Sof. Like the ray of the sun, which comes from the sun. So in that sense, it reflects the sun. But how do you compare the ray of the sun to the ball of the sun itself? You can't. You can't compare it. So on one hand, we say everything in Atzilus is elikus, but it's like ziv hashemesh from the shemesh, the ray of the sun. It's not be'erech to the Ein Sof ba'atzma. Ukamay b'dibur adam, like in a marshal of a person speaking. You can't compare the faculty of the speech to the essence of the idea. Nonetheless, a ray of the idea comes out in the words. And there's no way somebody else can understand your wisdom if it doesn't go through your voice and your speech. What is for you only words becomes the source of the very idea for your friend. So you understand what happens here. What for you is only dibur, for him is the whole seichel. That's his only access to the seichel. So the lowest level of the highest becomes the highest level of the lowest. And the highest level of the lowest is really the lowest level of the highest. And then that highest level of the lowest, which is the lowest level of the highest, has to go to its lowest level, which becomes the highest level of the next madrega. Hadibur shaloi nasa seichel lechaver. Kachke vayachol ha'aras atzmus ein sof baruch hu mizgalai de b'chinas oisius. So this is a mashal. The ha'ara of atzmus ein sof. Atzmus ein sof is the essence of the ein sof. It's ray, like the ray of the sun. That's what oisius are. It comes out through oisius. What do we mean? These are all the sources for the hamshacha, for the flow of the chiyus from the light of infinity to be enclosed and to give the chayus of all the worlds, highest and lowest. The Isis in the highest world, which is the lowest level. It's like the doimim, the lifeless, like the rocks in our world, which are lifeless. They're inferior to man, they're inferior to animals, they're inferior to produce. Doimim is the lowest level. So the Isis, which are the lowest level, in the next world, the lower world, that is the lead, that is the head, that is the seichel, that is the b'china of medaber. What's the difference between doimim and medaber? Doimim is lifeless, inorganic material, like rocks, minerals, stones, etc. Tzeimeach, there's already growth, there's the world of botany, there's chiyus. Chai, there's consciousness, there's emotion. Medaber, there's already reason, curiosity, inquisitiveness, human intelligence. But what happens is when I speak, my words become your seichel. So the daimim in one world becomes the medaber in the next world. So he says that's a mashal that in the Ein Sof, there's the oisius, which represents how the chiyus comes out as the ray of the sun, which becomes the source of chiyus for the next world. And what's oisius in the higher world becomes the rosh, the highest level, the seichel of the next world.
But the parallel between man and God is not so exact, because by the Rosh Shalom, his domain is the osios. So his ha'ara comes out, so to speak, through osios. But by us, like he says, when we speak to our friend, our ha'ara actually comes out through dibur.
That's oisius.
Oh, he's saying osios and dibur is the same.
Yeah. Dibur is made up of oisius, yeah. Words are made up of oisius, so it's exactly the same. That's why the source with all the chayas coming out is called chatzeres, courtyards. In halacha, what's a chatzer? Chatzer is always the passageway. You want to go from your house outwards, you go through the chatzer. That's the path through which Hashem's chiyus goes to the created beings. But generally, there's two types of flows. One is the flow that comes out to the external worlds, called the outer courtyard. Is to the inner worlds. These are the letters of Torah and Tefillah and the souls of tzaddikim. In the Megillah, you have Chatzer HaChitzoyna, Haman Bala, you have Chatzar HaChitzoyna and Chatzar HaPnimis, Noichach Beis HaMelech. Soon we're going to deal with the house, but there's two types of courtyards. There's the inner chamber, the inner courtyard, and the outer courtyard. Chatzar HaChitzoyna, there's more access. These are the two flows of the Isis. One is Chitzoni Yisraelim, is the external worlds. One is Pnimi Yisraelim, is the inner worlds. You typhus a little bit. It's huh? We have to sensitize ourselves to this type of language. It's a different vocabulary.
We're a year in, it's still hard.
It's a different vocabulary, It's not a regular vocabulary. He speaks as with a pshittis, with a flow. When a person is teaching, let's say you have a Rav, he's teaching. I'm talking about a person who really understands. He doesn't start you have a teacher, he's teaching Gemara, so he looks up the art scroll a few minutes before. No, a person who really masters what he's teaching. So the idea is clear by him. It's clear. He comes to the audience with an idea, but they don't have access to the idea. The only access they have is to letters, to words. That's where he has to build his home. He has to build the idea. He starts speaking. He finishes. And he gets this look. The look on people's eyes like, what are you talking about? Can't you spend your time talking about other things? What are you talking about? That, what's the word? A dazed look. It's like dazed. Yeah. It's not that he said anything wrong. It's just like, so what has to happen now? He has to find new oisius, it's called, right? You had, in Yiddish you say, you have to look for new letters, new words to convey the idea. Maybe a mashal, an illustration, maybe a story, maybe more explanations, maybe all of it together. Where were all these words before? Where were all these words? Where were all these illustrations? Where were all these parables and metaphors? Where were they? They weren't there before. The student brought it out. The student brought it out, right? He says, let me give you a mashal. Let me give you a mashal. I forget, I was once learning Chassidus by Rabbi Yoel Khan. So he's somewhat of a mufshat. He's somewhat abstract. So there was a sitting there, a guy he liked to crack jokes. So he once tells us, he was learning a maimer, so the Malatanya says, somebody who's mushkin taivas olam haza, somebody who's submerged in the taivas of this world. This Bacha says, it's a marshal. It's a marshal. So give a marshal. He puts, this is the days of smoking. So he puts his head on this, lights up a lark, starts thinking. Says, chocolate. Chocolate! He's into chocolate. Shite! That itself is a shear. He found a marshal for somebody who's submerged in taivas olam haza. Chocolate, right? Okay. Chocolate. Yeah. Chocolate. He likes chocolate.
That's a mushka, is it?
Mushka, a guy who's submerged. He was looking for a marshal. He's that. He's not mamash in this. Huh? Where are all these metaphors of the teacher? Where are all the illustrations? Where are all the explanations? Yeah, you'll have Achron right. The Tosfos Hasbara. Let's explain this more. The Olam didn't understand. Let's explain it more. A good teacher doesn't lose his patience. Lo yabayshin lamed v'lo yakapdon malamed. If you're a kapdan, you can't teach. If you lose your patience fast, you can't teach. You may belong in a laboratory, but you can't teach people. You have to repeat. You have to explain more. Where were all these explanations? They were all there, but they were not necessary. Why were they not necessary? Because the idea was clear. Right? The idea was clear. We learned the other day, we just came off, we just landed from dealing with the international date line. Yeah? You have a person, you say the international date line, he knows exactly what it is. His whole life, he literally works with it. You have other people, you have to bring a globe, and you have to start traveling, say you're in Yerushalayim, and you come in, you come there, right? You have to go through the whole day and see how it happens. I got it. You know, they understand the reality only through the illustrations. For the person who has it clear, where are all the mashalim? Where are all the hesbedim? Where are all the letters? They're there. They're inside the idea, but they're not conspicuous. They're not revealed. They're there in a state of bekoyach, in a state of potential. It's not like the teacher invented these concepts when the students didn't understand it. The concepts and the hesbedim were there, but they were swallowed up. They were submerged in the idea itself. The idea doesn't need all these hesbedim. The hesbedim are only there to explain it to somebody else who doesn't get the core of it. So all the oisius are there, but they're there in a state of bekoyach. Take a look at the sun. The light that we have here coming in through the window is a ray. Let's call it a light wave. Lights are waves. Particles also, but let's talk about the wave. Does the light wave exist in the solar core or not? It only exists once it comes into our atmosphere. Of course it exists in the solar core. If it exists outside of the solar core, for sure it exists in the solar core. But you're not going to find it in the solar core. Why? Because it's completely submerged there. It doesn't have a separate tfisas makom. It doesn't occupy its own space. In the solar core, it's completely submerged and insignificant. Once it leaves the solar core and it reaches our planet, it becomes a ganze miyuchas. Hameir la'aretz, v'ladorim ala berachamim. We talk about the Oir HaShemesh. It's not Parshas. We make a bracha once in 28 years. We appreciate this light very much. It lets us survive. It lets us live. But it wasn't created outside. It was there inside. So oisius, legabe, the higher pchina, legabe, their source, it's all there. But it's like the ziv hashemesh, the ray of the sun. In its source, it's all there bekoyach, in a state of potentiality. But the only way the lower world, let's call the student, could receive the idea is only through the oisius. I can't get light from the sun itself. You go to the sun itself, you're not going to have light. You're going to be dead. You'll be burnt up. We need the little light that comes from the solar core. And that light gives us an appreciation of the sun. So now, for this teacher, what is for him the tafel shabbatafel, for the Talmud, becomes the source of the whole idea. What is for him the lowest level of communication, for the other person, that's how he gets it. That's his only access to the seichel. Now, in the mashal, you have to understand, It's not completely accurate. Why? Because in the mashal, the student exists, the teacher exists. He's just trying to convey an idea. So he conveys an idea through oisius, through letters. But what happens if the student would be created through the oisius? What happens if the oisius would not only convey an idea, they were creating the idea? So what type of world would it look like? You understand? In the nimshal, you have to understand, you're not just dealing with an entity and you're communicating information to the entity. The information you're communicating is creating the entity that you're communicating. It's a whole different experience. The oisius here are not just you're trying to communicate to somebody in a lower level. The oisius are the source of their existence. So what type of existence do they experience themselves as?
Lower level, by definition.
That is what they become. They become that pchina. The oisius are the source of their very existence. So their highest level of consciousness, of identity, is the lowest level of the higher pchina. Not just the student exists independent of the teacher. He understands the shir, doesn't understand the shir. It's not that the shir creates his mitzias. But what if the shir would create his mitzias? What if ideas would create reality? What if every idea of yours would create a reality? What would that reality look like? Huh? Like a computer, yeah? Like a computer program. But if that program had real life, like some computers, yeah? Maybe one day, I don't know. So then it's a whole different Indian. So that what is the lowest, what is doimim in the highest level becomes the medaber in the lowest. That's what he says, that hadibur shaloi nasa seichel lechavere. His dibur becomes a seichel. So the first source, when we speak about the Ein Sof, the mashal for this would be Ein Sof b'chvoidei ba'atzmai is elikus. The oisius are also elikus, because they're all submerged in the Ein Sof, just like the light wave in the solar core. But he says it's completely not be'erech. We call it elikus because it's not this samsim and nigbal b'bchinas keli, meaning the oisius are still in its source. It's not like the ray of the sun was communicated in a vessel and contained and defined and limited. It wasn't defined and limited. But it's like the light wave in the solar core. The light wave in the solar core is part of the solar core. Of course it's part of the solar core. It's part of Ein Sof. But you're still going to call it the oisius in Atzilus. The state of potentiality for the energy that's going to be communicated to the worlds. The talent that when the teacher has to dig, he has to stop and say, wait, let me think. What is he trying to come up with to explain it to his students? He knows that a certain part of his mind he's not going to be communicating. It's not for the olam. Maybe one day. He lechatchila goes to that place where he can find the potentiality for a type of information that could be communicated to them. In him, it's all one. There's no distinctiveness. It's all one. It's all one picture. It's not like, okay, here is the part that belongs to the Talmud, here's the part that belongs to the Rav. It's all one. But he has to find within himself those states that potentially could be communicated. Those states, even in their source, are called already avonim. They're called oisius. They're called doimim. L'gabe de Ein Sof. Not because they're not a likus. They are a likus. It's all part of the teacher. It's not. They're not misconstrued yet. But l'gabe, this source, that's already the potential of that which could be translated into the consciousness of the universe. Now there's infinite universes, but each one comes from oisius. So you have Chatzar HaPnimis, you have Chatzar HaChitzayna, but it all starts with the oisius that are there b'koyach in Olam HaAtzilus, and then get communicated darga after darga. And in each world, the highest pchina of that world is really the lowest pchina of the previous world. And then the lowest pchina of the next world, right? The lowest pchina of the next world becomes the highest pchina of the next world. That's how it works. Or the Lashon, as we're going to see, the malchus of one world becomes the keser of the next world. The lowest level of consciousness of one state becomes the highest experience of consciousness of the next state. And it has to be that way. Because the only way this world can experience its highest level of consciousness is from the lowest level of consciousness of that state. And so the oisius evolve throughout the worlds. What do they represent even in the source? The makar of the chiyus that is available to ultimately become melubash, to constitute the consciousness of the student. Remember, this is not the information of the student, it's the very entity of the student, the very identity. Imagine if your shiur wouldn't give people information, it would create people's minds. What type of minds would they look like? Now, this is a little abstract. Imagine you would speak, and you were creating the minds while you were speaking. It's a pretty big achrayus. It's a pretty big achrayus. If your words were not giving people information, they were creating the recipients of the information. This is cutting-edge computer coding here. Artificial intelligence. Yeah. You're creating it.
The lowest things are OCS.
Right.
The computer will create a new intelligence.
Yes. The ISIS of the computer create the new intelligence. The cells are made up of ISIS, so to speak, the DNA ISIS. They make up the cell. So imagine if your information now is not words. The information is becoming an entity, a living entity. But that entity is nothing but the information. What does that information look like? What is it? And what's the relationship between that which is being created from that which is being created? That's the relationship of how you have to understand all the worlds, all the Nevrayim to their ultimate source in the Ein Sof, as he will continue to explain. Okay, so let's summarize what we learned last time. The collective body of the Jewish people that we call Knesset Yisrael are called Kala. That's the title of Knesset Yisrael. We're called the Kala, the bride. Not only because there's a marriage, but the word Kala comes from the word, why is a Kala called a Kala? One of the reasons is because Kol Sanavshi, which means there's a yearning. My soul goes out, it pines, it aspires. El ishech chukasech. You're craving, you're pining, your yearning is to your husband. It's true about Knesset Yisrael, and it's true about every soul. Neir Hashem nishmas adam. The soul, by its very nature, yearns, it aspires. And the flame never ever relaxes. It never ceases to yearn and grow and try to kiss the heaven and sway and dance. It never remains in one space. And he says, therefore, it's called a Neir Hashem because the teva of the soul is it wants dveikus, it wants intimacy, it wants meaning, it wants purpose. And that cannot be extinguished. It's a flame that can't be extinguished in the sense you cannot find a soul that does not have a yearning, that does not seek meaning. Which is why the need for meaning, the need for purpose, is inherent to the neshama. It's not like you can have a person that on some level doesn't need it. It may be repressed, it may be subconscious, it may be not felt. But every single soul yearns for meaning. A meaningless life ultimately is a deep deprivation for the soul. And the symptoms come out. When you're hungry, or you're grouchy, you're depressed, the symptoms come out when there's no meaning. Ultimately the soul becomes tired and exhausted because it loses its oxygen. Meaning for the soul is what oxygen is to the body. You can't live without oxygen. You take away meaning from a person's life and you obliterated their soul's oxygen. Not only that, he says, the search for meaning is so deep that it wants to melt. It wants complete intimacy with truth. El ishech chukasech. But, v'hu yimshel bach. He tells the soul, bal karchech atachai. You can't have complete intimacy. You have to be separate. You have to be somewhat detached. You have to be independent. Naturally, the soul wants to melt away in the bosom of her husband. The Kala wants to melt away in the bosom of her groom and just fly away together in an endless oneness. But Hashem tells the Kala, V'hu yimshel bach, no, you have to go down. But even after it goes down, he says, into a body, the main avoid of a person is to cultivate and find that aspiration, that yearning, that oneness. Nichsef v'gam kol sanavsh. But here you have to understand that there's two types of kalas. There's two types of klei sanafishes. There's Beis Hillel's kala and there's Beis Shammai's kala. It's two separate kalas. They're not just arguing what you say to the kala. They're talking about two kalas, two brides. There's the kala that we speak about and we say kala kamois shehi. That's one kala. Kala kamois shehi, you speak about the kala as is. As is. And as Beis Shammai says, that means any kala. Afilu chigeres, afilu summa. Now remember, this is Gaoinus, how he develops this. Even lame, even blind. That's the kala. Which is why Beis Shammai had such a difficulty with saying kala nova chasuda. What if she's not? Not everybody is everything. Not everybody is nova chasuda. He says, what if she's chigeres? So what if she's lame? What if she's blind? I mean, he's going to speak about it spiritually, but physically it means, what if she's not no? How do you lie? Don't lie. Kala kamaishi. Find her virtues. Every person has virtues. Every person has redeeming qualities. I told you once my anecdote. There was a bacher, he went out for a shidduch, comes home. The kala goes over to the shadchan. She says, your mom is a filthy liar. She whispers. The shadchan says, what's the problem? Kala whispers, you said he was tall, he's short. You said he was slim, he's fat and obese. You said he was smart, the guy's dumb, he's a moron. I don't understand you. Shadchan says, you don't have to whisper, he's deaf too. So Beis Shammai says you have to find the virtues. Don't lie. Don't lie. Kala kamoishi, every kala as is, whoever she is, talk about it. Sometimes she's chigeres or summa. What does Beis Hillel say? No, kala nova chasud. Every kala is beautiful, every kala is gracious. Halacha is like Beis Hillel, but it's two kalas, it's two brides. So Balatanya sees in this Gemara two paradigms of avodah, not stam. Keitzad merakten lifnei akala is not a question on a chasana. It's a question every life, every person's life. How do you dance in front of the kala? How do you bring out the kala in the Jew? How do you bring out the kala, the klois hanefesh of an neshama? For this, there's two completely different kalas. So in the other Maimer we learned in Shir Hashem, if you remember, Keitzad merakten lifnei hakala, there he discussed that the machlokes was two approaches to avodas Hashem. One approach to avodas Hashem is, Beis Shammai says, you got to be clean before you get into a relationship. You have to be completely clean, completely toxicity-free, sur meirah before asay tov. You have to clean up the mess in the house before you bring in beautiful furniture. There's no relationship without it. Kala kamois shehi, every person has to be judged according to who they are, and according to how much you work on refining yourself, that's how much you'll be able to experience the Ohr Hashem, the light of Hashem. Beis Hillel says, no way, kala nova chasuda, right away you have to bring out the beauty of the kala, the graciousness of the kala. Start with asay tov even before sur meirah. Today there's a debate in the world of therapy. It's an interesting debate. You have a person who's addicted to destructive habits, destructive behavior. One approach is, this is the approach in the 12-step program of recovery. If you don't become fully abstinent, if you don't completely disengage, and quit the habit, and quit the addiction and break it, there's nothing to talk about. You're just going to fall back into the same cycle, the same vicious cycle of lies, deception, and addiction, whatever the addiction is, and you have to break it and stop it. But very often, especially in one particular type of addiction known as SA, there's a tremendous disproportionate amount of relapses. As people, again, they relapse and relapse and relapse, because it's very, very powerful. All addictions are powerful, but this has a special power. That's how God created people. It's a very special, very intense power. And there's relapse and relapse and relapse. And sometimes there's a brutality here, which is often very helpful. You have to remain sober, and if not, there's nothing to talk about. And yet, there's some situations that you have to be careful. Why? If somebody has a life to fight for, if they have a meaning in their life to fight for, so they have an incentive to be sober in order to fight for that life. If a person sees themselves as completely valueless, as completely insignificant, They have absolutely no meaning to their life. They don't have anything to fight for that should encourage them to fight over the addiction. So sometimes, if you don't give that to them, you're not helping them. You cannot focus on their ra. You can't focus on their ra because they have nothing to look forward to. Their whole life is worthless. It's meaningless. So why shouldn't I have a relapse? For what? What am I fighting for? For my wife? For my children? For myself? For my soul? For my truth? They don't have any of it. They were taught in their mind that they're absolutely worthless. Their whole life is worthless. You have to give somebody a life. They should say, I want to fight for it. There's something good in me that I want to fight for. If there's nothing good in me, what am I fighting for? To preserve a shmata? To preserve a doormat? To preserve a dirty, filthy rag? Who needs to preserve it? Let it be. It's already messed up, so it'll be a little more messed up. The Gemara has an expression, somebody who ate garlic and he smells, he should eat more garlic and he smells? That's the Gemara's approach, but some people's approach, for sure. You have a beautiful white shirt, yeah, and you eat chocolate ice cream, right? And the ice cream falls on the shirt, yeah? So you have a big stain here and a big stain there. What's the approach? Is the approach, okay, let me get it more stained? The approach is, you have 2 stains, why should I get a 3rd stain? Right? Many people's approach is, the shirt is dirty, who cares? The shirt is stained, a little more ice cream, a little less ice cream. So you smell already, you'll smell a little more. You already smell so badly that everybody hates you. So you'll smell a little more. So you understand. So Beis Shammai is really right in the perfect, in the ideal world. Of course, Beis Shammai is right. There's no surmera. In the real world, however, Beis Hillel says, you have to understand that sometimes people are so far that if you wait for surmera, you're going to wait forever. You need to start off with positivity. You need to start off with lichtigkeit. You have to start off with or before you discuss chayshach. That's the Balatanya says in the Likkutei Torah Shir HaShirim. But this is a big machlokes constantly with people. Do you have to demand that level? Or no, start with oir, and the more light he'll find, they'll say, you know what? There's something going on positive. That itself will help him be doicha the chayshach. This is the machlokes with Chanukah. We spoke then, the machlokes with Chanukah, the same machlokes. You start with 8, you start with 1, it's the same machlokes. Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel. Here, he discusses it a little differently. That there's 2 types of kalas, we'll soon see. There's 2 pchinas of the Jewish people. There's the kala of Beis Shammai, there's the kala of Beis Hillel. There's the kala nova chasuda, and there's the kala kamay shehi. In order to explain this, he started a whole shtickle. And it was a deep piece. I just want to summarize one nekuda. It's kedai to chazer over inside with Oisis Harav. It's very b'diyuk here every ois. But the nekuda is that the Sefer Yetzirah calls Oisius rocks. Every letter is seen as a stone. You bring stones together to build a structure, and you bring letters together to build sentences, paragraphs, chapters, books, svarim. It's all Oisius. Ois by ois by ois. You build. The world was built through Oisius. Asarim amor ba'asarim amoris nivra olam. B'dvar Hashem shamayim naso. Uveruach piv kol tzvam. Dibur vayomer elakim yihi or vahi or. The world is built with Oisius. And he says the mashal of Oisius is not just on a simple level. True, that Oisius come together to build presentations, just like stones come together to build homes. And the art of the architect and the contractor is not which stones to use, that too. But the most important thing is how to combine things together. Right? The difference between a good speech and a great speech, I don't want to say a horrible speech, between a great speech and a yet a greater speech is not the alphabet. The same alphabet, same 22 letters, aleph through taf, or ABC, whatever language you're using. The combination. It's the configuration. The difference between eloquence, absolute eloquence, and poor presentation is the same alphabet, but you can't compare. And we know 2 people could say the same thing, but the way they say it is completely and absolutely different. One person inspires, the other person puts down. One person elevates, the other person crushes. They're saying the same message, but ultimately the presentation is so critical and so vital because the tzirufim make up all the difference. In fact, as the Balatanya says elsewhere, Everything is oisius. It's only about sirufim. It's always about sirufim. Sefer Yetzirah says oineg. We spoke about oineg, nega, same letters. Oineg is pleasure, nega is leprosy. It's just where you put the ayin, where you put your eye, where you put your perspective. My ayin is on the right side. It's oineg. My ayin as an ayin, and ayin as an eye. My eye is on the left side. It's nega. It's the same reality. It's just what I see, right? I look at one person, I could see, you give me so much oineg, right? A father looks at a child and says, you give me so much pleasure. Another father looks at the same child and says, you cause me to become and feel like I'm a tzara. Right? You know what's the difference? Same child, just your eyes, what you see. What you see. The Rebbe Rashab once said, a mensch was is grab, zet grabkeit umetum. A mensch was is edel, zet edelkeit umetum. Somebody who's brute and coarse, he sees it everywhere. Somebody who's refined, he sees refinement everywhere. Not because he's naive, because he sees it. He has glasses that see things that the other person won't see. He sees refinement. He sees potential. It's the same thing. We're looking at the same painting. We're looking at the same piece of art, but it's a different perspective. It's all about siruf. It's all about where you put the letter. It's all the same letters. In fact, that's the difference of Tov and Ra. Tov and Ra, it's all the same sirufim. It's all the same isis, but it's a question of siruf. It's always a question of combinations. That's why combining letters and reconfiguration, that's the art of life. The art of life is litzaref, sirufim. To take isis and to be able to move them around. Just to move them around. The same information, the same data, simply to move them around. And we know in a person what makes the difference between a person and an animal. Yeah? Sometimes 99% of the DNA is identical, yeah? It's one ice, little one ice, you put here, you put there. Here you have a chimpanzee, and here you have a human being. Here you have a frog, a salamander, and here you have a chacham gadol. One siruf, both l'toiv and l'mutav, and all many, literally one tiny siruf is off. So the whole world is basically isis. In addition to that, he says, isis, avonim are doimim. They're lifeless. They represent lifelessness. Isis, legabe, the idea itself, also represent doimim. What do we mean? The isis convey the idea, but they're not synonymous with the idea. Vaharaya, you can hear the isis, you can even learn it bapa, you can learn Mishnayos bapa, you don't understand the thing the person is saying. You can read an article, you can read an essay, you read the isis, you have all the isis, but you don't have it. If a person doesn't understand the idea, in other words, the isis on one hand convey the idea, but they're not the idea itself, they're channels for the idea. So Legabe the Mahus HaSeichel, he calls it doimim. The whole diversity of all the worlds come from different isis. Everything comes from the tzirufei isis. Legabe, the mohus haseichel, it's all tzirufei isis. Tzirufei isis b'dvar Hashem shamayim nasu. The isis kevayachol that have the energy, and legabe, the source of the chiyus in Atzilus, the source of the, it's called isis. It's called avonim. Because it's doimim. Just like doimim, you can't compare doimim to medaber. The level of life is so much more minute. Even though we know that doimim, today we know that doimim has a whole life. You look at a table, it's not as dead as it looks. You look at a cup, it's not as dead as it looks. You look at an iPhone, it's certainly not as dead as it looks, unfortunately. And you look at a microphone or at a rock, it's not as dead. If you can have the right tools, if you have the microscopes that allow you to observe, you see that in this dead, inorganic matter, there's a very dynamic and vibrant universe. But still, from the visible eye, you can't compare the visibility of life in the rock to the display of life in the tree, in the bush, in the plant, never mind in the animal, never mind in the human being, where you see vibrancy, you see chiyus. So the level of energy that comes through the oisius are doimim, legabe, the energy in the source, which he calls here Atzilus. And then he goes a step deeper and says that even in the source there's isis. Just like we said in the teacher who conveys the idea, he has all the isis, but there the isis are submerged, they're not noticeable. The student needs the isis, so the teacher has to say the isis. You have a teacher, he's reading a piece of Gemara, a Mishnah, he learned the Gemara 900 times. Somebody once said he was arguing with Rabbi Moshe Feinstein on a Taz. So Rabbi Moshe said, I learned this Taz this morning for the 600th time. I know the pshat in the Taz. I learned this Taz today for the 600th time. Right? So he looks at the Mishnah, he looks at the Gemara, he mastered it, he knows it. You can always go deeper, and he goes deeper. For the student, suddenly he has to bring out all these new mashalim and illustrations. Where were they all? They were all in him, but they were not noticeable. They were submerged. Where in God is all the energy that is invested in the creation of the world? It's all in him, but it's completely submerged. It's completely like the light wave in the solar core. It's there. The light wave that we have this morning is in the solar core, but over there doesn't occupy any space, any separate space. It's completely submerged. In infinity, you have there also all the koiches that come out in the world. For the student, the oisius emerge as something significant, as something separate, as something distinctive. So therefore, in the source of Hashem, kevayach, of his koyach, in Olam HaTzilus, you have all the oisius. Just like you have all the oisius hadibor when they're still in your chachma. But legabe ein soif, these are called avonim, doimim. Kulam b'chachma asisa, even that which we call chachma, really the gabe him is like the b'china of asiyah. And the mashal that he gave for this was very powerful. A person is speaking, the words are inferior to the idea. In fact, even if he wouldn't say the words, the idea would be fully in him. The words are simply a reflection of the idea, and they don't even capture the full idea. Like a teacher, what he's saying in his shiur may be only 1% of what he knows about the subject. He's just giving over a glimmer, and yet for the student, those words become the source of the idea. His access to the very idea becomes the letters, the words of the teacher. In other words, what for the teacher is the lowest stage of evolution of the idea, for the student it becomes the highest stage. The oisius of the teacher become the seichel of the student. And the oisius of the student, which came from the seichel of the student, which came from the oisius of the teacher, they become the seichel for his student. And the oisius of that student, which came from the seichel of that student, which came from the oisius of the student, which came from the lowest level of the teacher, all that now becomes the source and the highest level for the next student. And as I said, this is a little abstract, and I'm not going to go into it again, that here it's only a mashal of communication of energy, of ideas. In the nimshal, it's not communication, it's creation. Imagine if the Rav wasn't giving information to the student, he was creating the student through his shiur. Basically, the way he speaks to him, that actually creates him. The information that he's giving him is creating the mind that absorbs that information. How much can the Talmud then be toifus from the Rav? We have a situation, the Talmud has his own mind. Maybe one day he'll excel the Rav. He'll go beyond the Rav, because he has his own mind. But here, imagine if the Rav's oisis, they are creating the mind. They are creating the very mind. So what is for him the lowest state becomes the highest state of consciousness for the student. So that's the idea. The same is true in the chiyus alaki, that the oisius are in the source itself. Over there, they're also called avonim and doimim, and then they continue and they flow down to all of the worlds. And he said that's why the source of the chiyus is called chatserus, which means courtyards, because through them the chiyus goes through to the nivraim. But there's two chatserus. There's chatzar hachitzoina and there's chatzar hapnimis noichach beis hamelech. The oisius are the source of the chiyus the way they are in Ein Sof, which ultimately will come out and become the source of life in all the worlds. And the lowest of the highest world becomes the highest in the lower world. And the highest in the lower world is really the lowest of the world above it. And then the lowest of that world becomes the highest of the next world. And so it goes. So Chatzeris is the passageway. Just like a Chatzah, we go into our house or we go into the public domain. It's the passageway through which the Chiyus goes. One goes to the external worlds, one goes to the internal worlds. One is the Chatzer Lechitzen, and one is the Chatzer Lepnimi. This was his Akdama. Now let's go a little weiter, he says. Beis. V'zeu kol son nafshi lechatzres beis Hashem. We come back to the capital of Tehillim. My soul, Perik Beis, page 60. My soul, 16, Bamidbar, Perik Beis, first column. Kol son nafshi, my soul yearns lechatzres beis Hashem. What's chatzres beis Hashem? Not to Hashem, to his chatzr. Nafshi hu makir neshamas Yisrael. Whenever David speaks about my soul, it's not just my soul, me as an individual. David identified himself as with the makir of neshamas Yisrael, with the womb where all the neshamas converge, the womb where all the neshamas are one. That's nafshi. David is called Ne'im Zmiris Yisrael. He's the voice of the Jewish people. He's the violin, the harp that contains the symphony of Klal Yisrael. In each generation, in various generations, you have the person who's not just a manhig, he's not just a Talmud Chacham, not just a Rav, not just a big Rosh Hashiva. He is rather the harp that captures the symphony of Knesset Yisrael. That's a different definition. David is that person. Ne'im Zmiris Yisrael. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi says in his famous poem that we read on Tisha B'Av, Tzion haloisi sh'ali l'shloim asirayich. He says, Ani kinar l'shirayich. I am a harp for your melodies. He speaks about himself. I am a harp for the melodies of Yerushalayim. It was then paraphrased into Yerushalayim Shal Zahav. Yeah? Ani l'chol shirayich ani kinar. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi says his words, Ani kinar l'shirayich. I am a harp for your melody. What does it mean, I am a harp? It means my identity is really the harp that plays out your shir. So David's nafshi, he says nafshi is makir neshamas Yisrael. There's that person whose soul is the harp that contains, that captures the symphony of Knesset Yisrael. Shehi malchus da atzilus hamislabeshes b'bri yitzir asiyah. Knesset Yisrael, that's basically synonymous with what we call Malchus of Atzilus, which is the lowest attribute of Atzilus. And therefore, it becomes enclosed in the next worlds, called Bri Yitzir Asiyah. V'cheftzot shekasali is b'mekayda v'shar shabatzilus. Her craving is to go back, Kala, to go back to be one with her source. Asher shamu achatzeres Hashem. In Malchus, you have the Chatzris Hashem. What do we mean Chatzris Hashem? Hamshachas hachiyus me'orein soif baruch hu hamamshich mashpil l'chayas. U'biyiridasa lamata b'bri yitzir asiyah kol sa nafsha takef l'dafka b'mekayda b'sharsha b'chiyus. She craves, and she says, kol sa nafshi l'chatzris Hashem. What's Chatzris Hashem? The courtyard of Hashem. What's the courtyard? The passageway. Malchus of Atzilus is the passageway where the chiyus comes through to ultimately be mashpia energy to all of the worlds and all of the souls and all of the angels and all of the universes and creatures in the lower worlds. So as long as the souls are in Malchus, they're there. Once they come down into the lower worlds, kol sanavshi lechatzros. I want to go back to that chotzer, to those chatzeros of Malchus. Kamoisha adam toyev l'chayi nafsha, kameshakos of nafshi v'sich. Just like a person craves for the life of his soul. Like the Pasuk says, Yeshaya says, Nafshi ivisicha balayla. My soul craves you at night. Al pi diktuk, we have a problem here. You don't say, my soul, ivisicha, I crave you at night. Either you say, Nafshi ivsach, or ivisicha. In English, you don't say, my soul, I crave you. My soul craves for you, or I crave for you. Here he says, Nafshi, my soul, Ivi Sicha, I crave you, I want you. So the Balatanya Taitcha is based on the Zoyar. Different pshat. Nafshi, you're my soul. Therefore, Ivi Sicha balayla, therefore I crave you. In other words, he doesn't see the divine as something separate from the person. He sees the divine as the essence of the soul. If it's the essence of the soul, just like you dying for your life to come back to you, You're dying for this relationship, dying in the sense, yearning for this relationship. A person hasn't eaten in a while, or hasn't had sleep, or didn't drink. They're toyev l'chaye nafshe. You want a little relief. Yeah, you want oxygen. You want to be you don't want to be dehydrated. You want to quench your thirst. You want to get a few hours of sleep. Your toyev person is never very sick. He's toyev l'chaye nafshe. He yearns for the life of his soul. That's the same taiva we're talking about. When you come down even further in Ezel, ba'avodas ha'adam, dafka bo yizbarach b'diburei machshavas eisis ha'torah v'atfilah, shehei meim chatzeres Hashem v'amshachas elikus meidin tzayv baruch. In avoid, it's the craving to connect to Him through the words and thoughts of the letters of Torah and Davening, which they are all chatzeres Hashem, the courtyards of Hashem, meaning they constitute the flow of energy of God. The divine energy goes through the oisius of Torah and Tefillah, as he said before. This is the energy that goes to the pnimius ha'olamus. This is chatzar ha'pnimis, the inner chatzar. These are the oisius of Torah v'Tefillah. That's why they're called chatzeres, because through them the energy comes out. But v'hine yesh shnei b'chinas chatzar, b'chinas bayis. But you have a courtyard and you have a house. Shtein in b'chinas avonim. A courtyard is made of stones, and a house is built of stones. But there's a difference. A house has a roof. A chatzar is roofless. They're both structures built of avonim. One is roofed, one is not roofed. Spiritually, avonim represents oisius. The chatzar represents the oisius that create a courtyard without a roof. The bayis represents also oisius, but it creates a roof. There's a roof. What's the difference? There's two types of avodas Hashem. There's people who hang out in the courtyard. There's people who hang out in the homes. There's a person who's immersed in Torah and Tefillah. He focuses his mind primarily or exclusively levadam to the oisius, to the letters. Ki gamzu derech yeshara. This also is a correct path. Gamzu derech yeshara. K'mashakasav makamach.
It's a backhand compliment.
Huh?
It's a backhand compliment.
The oisius, a Jew who becomes ecstatic about the oisius of davening and tefillah. Hine. It's a derech yeshara, but you have to realize, ein melubash be'em rakoyach hamachshava levad. It's a fascinating analysis, and you're going to see the different streams of how Chassidus developed here. He doesn't say it that way, but if you could see, you'll see it in the words. Ein melubash be'em rak koyach hamachshava levad, v'lo koyach hasichlius. What's captured by this Jew is his thoughts, but not his mind. His thoughts are completely engulfed in Kedusha, but not his mind. Why? Because he's overtaken by the oisius. And the oisius have holiness, and it's a derech yeshara. B'meila his emotions, but not through the mind, only the thoughts. There's different machshava. Kivan shesichloi panoi, and therefore he has to know that his mind is still vacant. Wow. His mind has not been overtaken, has not been involved. Hareyacha lipel besichloi machshavas chutz. So therefore, a lot of alien thoughts could make right. They can find easy passage into the mind. You're in the courtyard, you're sheltered, but if it starts raining, you're going to get wet. Why? There's no roof. What's the eitzah? He has to now take his das and seichel and go deep with his das to the meaning of the words. Ad mokum sheyadei magas. Till where his hand can reach, in other words, his utmost capacity. That's tefillah. Now go to Torah. Ubeiyun sichloi be'esek haTorah bepshat remez drush soid. He has to take his mind and immerse it fully in Torah, whether it's on the level of pshat, remez, drush soid, on all levels. V'zen nikra pnimiyus haTorah. This is called pnimiyus haTorah. Here he means pnimiyus not in terms of Kabbalah, but pnimiyus in terms of not just the oisius of Torah, but what's inside the oisius, the light, the seichel inside the oisius. Ubchinazu nikra bayis shehu pnimi. The home is inside, not outside. It has a roof. The chatzir is chitzon. In Chatzar itself, you have two levels. There's Chitzonius ha'olamus and Pnimius ha'olamus. There's Chatzar ha'chitzoin and Chatzar ha'pnimis. There's the Chiyas that goes to the world, and there's the Chiyas that goes through Torah and Tefillah. One is Chatzar ha'chitzoina. Everything is Oisius of Hashem. But over there, it's on a more external Oisius, more external level of energy. Oisius ha'Torah and ha'Tefillah are Chatzar is Beis Hashem, Chatzar noichach Beis HaMelech, Chatzar ha'pnimis. Because it's the pnimius of the energy, but it's still a chatzar. And then there's the bias is protected. V'zeu shekasav ba'zoyar, the oiraisa, heichle ilo de kutchabrichu de tamon Yosef Malka. The Zohar says oiraisa is the home, it's the chamber of God, where the king sits. What does he mean? V'ainu pnimius ha'Torah. What do we mean pnimius? She pirush v'taimei ha'Torah shemalubish ben chachmei lo. That's when you understand the meaning in Torah, where you have the Chachma of Hashem. But here there's also a few levels. When you understand the Pshat of Torah, you understand Parshas Tamid, you take an English Siddur, you know what it means. Pinoi Svav Kedoshim, Hasam Gvuleich Shalom, Chelev Chitim Yazbiach. Baruch Geyser Mekayim Melech Mol. Pashat Pirush Hamilas Nikra Batim VeHechalos Da'asiyah. These are the Batim and Hechalos of Olam Ha'asiyah. When you understand Pirush Hamilas and Torah on the level of Remez, you went to Olam HaYitzirah. You built a bait. When you go to Drush, you went to Olam HaBriyah. When you go to Soid, you went to Olam HaTzilus. But it's homes. These are already homes, not Chatzeris. There's many different homes. But over there, the king sits. It's not only a Chatzer. It's not only a Chatzer. It's a Hechel. So he says there's two paths in Avodas Hashem, and the first one is also a derech yishar. There was a derech where Jews would get inspired by Oisius HaTefillah. The letters of, even if your mamas don't understand anything, the letters of Tefillah have a kedusha in them. The letters of Tefillah, either from Psukim or from Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, they have in them divine energy. And if you say the letters and you focus, they are a source of inspiration. And you know, today you don't see it so much. You still have it. But there were Yidden who lived like this for 60, 70 years. With Oisius HaTefillah. Somehow they started Hoidu Lashem Kiru V'Shmo Yediu V'Amim Ali Loisav, and they went on fire. There were a few principles. The cell phone has to be off. They have to be completely present. They're not looking at their watch, in 4 minutes they have to be out. Of course, all prerequisite that to be fully present. But they were present. And they went on fire. They were dancing with God. Even a Jew who didn't even understand all the Pirush Hamilas, and there's something true. And there were Jews who learned like that. They would open up a shtickle Gemara, open up a Mishnayos, and they would learn. This one understood more, this one understood less, but the Oisius became tremendously powerful. And this, he says, is a big derech. Why? Because the Oisius have in them Hamshachas Elikus. God is in the Oisius. The whole world comes from Oisius, but here the Oisius reveal godliness. The rest of the world, you have to dig, you have to excavate much more. You have to dig much more. But this is a very big derech. In Karlin, how they davened? In Karlin, they scream, they holler, yeah? But the hollering was a mechanism to hear the words. Like, wake up! Do you hear what you're saying? You hear what you're saying? And it's a very, very big inyan, but he says you have to remember one thing. Your thoughts are being occupied, not your mind. It looks like your mind, but you're not your mind. Because the difference between thoughts and seichel. Thoughts never stop. Your thoughts always have to be involved in something. If I'm thinking about letters, I'm thinking about letters. But if I don't understand it, so then ultimately my understanding remains vacant. My seichel remains vacant. So he says other things could fall in. Why can other things fall in? Because my seichel has not been taken, engaged. My machshava has been fully engaged. Because that's what I'm thinking about. When you're saying letters, and you're involved, and you're focusing, you were talking about a person who's focusing. Your machshava is there. But your mind is not there. You didn't deal with your mind. On the contrary, you don't even look to deal with your mind. You may even feel that that's a compromise. That's going away from Kedusha. But as you know, the Alter Rebbe was had a different shitta about it. He felt that if you want a lakus should penetrate the person, you have to engage the mind. It has to become something that's internalized within the personality and the character of the person. So therefore, he says, you have to go from the chotzer to the bias. Chotzer to the bias is not just enough that I get excited about the oisius, even though it's a derech yishara. And the reason he says it's a derech yishara is because it's a very powerful thing. It's not a small thing, the first avoid. It's a very big thing. That's why people have a lot of resistance to it. If it wouldn't be a big thing, there would be no resistance. It's a big avoida. It's a gross avoida. But it's still a chotzer. Chotzer means it's going to rain. What says it's going to rain? It means when you're screaming or you're hollering, you're dancing, it looks like you're completely inspired, but you're not. The fire is not burning in you. The fire is burning in your thoughts, in your actions. But internally, you're not a remade person.
How can you have thoughts if it's not in the mind?
Compartmentalized it.
No, thoughts are in the mind, but you may not have understanding. Seichel. Right? Yichvoid Hashem li'olam yismach Hashem b'masav yishem Hashem evoirech mat hamayil haaretz. There's something there. And I have to think. If I'm speaking, I'm thinking. But am I focusing on the message conveyed in the words and how it applies to me? That's a different focus. That's the concept of hisbonenus. That takes you from the chotzer into the bias. That's why you'll have a person sometimes, you'll have a fascinating concept. The person will have this relationship with the Isis, but somehow it's very hard for him to translate that ecstasy in the real world. Why? Because how do you bring it from that place to that place? If it's not internalized, I can't translate it to another person who's alien from it or to an environment that's alien from it. So the next day, and therefore the part of me that's alien also doesn't get affected. The part of me that's alien doesn't get affected.
So you want to turn it into your domain? Is that the idea? Into like something which will be in my core, but not necessarily...
In your core, yeah.
Not robotic.
So from the chotzer, it goes to the bias. And what's the bias? Here the rain is not going to get in so easily. Of course, there could be leaks in the house too. He's not saying there's no leaks in the house. But it means it's a mechanism where you're working with all the components of your mind. So therefore it's transformative. It's not just ascetic. It's not just you're escaping into a holy world. Thoughts are machshavas. Seichel. You can't experience an idea without machshava. We have no access. One of the tools of the seichel. Everything is thoughts. But thoughts don't represent your understanding. Thoughts are like they keep on going. Huh? It's always projecting you. On the screen of your mind there's always thoughts. It never stops. You know, in the hospital. Huh? Of course. Always. Always. Yeah, of course. Of course it can come from the seichel. When you have seichel, you have machshava. You have to have machshava. If not, I can't experience my seichel. But I can engage my machshava into something that I don't fully get. A person could do that. Right? In mindful work, you sometimes, they have Aryeh Kaplan in his Jewish meditation, he has a big meditation on the Aleph. What do? You sit, you have to clear your mind, and you just have to focus on an Aleph. Some people could do this, if they're trained, for 20 minutes. Yeah, just, and thoughts fly into you. I have to go here, I have to go there, I'm a crazy person, no, I'm normal, I'm becoming a meditator, I'm a meshuggah. You know, that's what happens when you try doing this. I mean, good luck. And they don't stop. And that's also fine. You know, you don't fight machshavas. You have to gently just say, you know, I'm trying to do something. But the machshavas say, don't try, you're a loser. You always know you're a loser. Suddenly you became a meditator, verbista b'chlal, whatever. All the good stuff come up.
What do you think about the Aleph?
Nothing. Nothing. That's the point. There's no point. You don't think anything. You just Aleph. That's the point. The point is no point. You're not trying to make money. That's what's hard about it, right? Come on, you gotta pay the bills. You lose it. It's not a Jewish concept, right? That's why they think it's a Buddhist concept. Because how are you going to make money from meditation? What are you going to sell? What are you going to sell? Shoyin sha'achas. Yeah. Huh? Very good. So so what are you're meditating on an aleph, yeah? So your thoughts, you're trying to direct your thoughts onto that aleph. So what's engaged? Your machshava is engaged, not your seichel. Your machshava is engaged. It's a powerful tool. It's a powerful mechanism. The next step here, he's talking about that's where you come from the chutzah to the bias. From the bias to the chutzah, from the chutzah to the bias is, I'm not just saying it, I fully get it, I fully understand it. Now it's much harder for other thoughts to come in. If I'm just saying oisius, right, so my relationship is still external. If I fully understand it and get it, like when somebody's learning a sugya, and they're completely enmeshed in it, right, it's very hard for other thoughts to take them away from it. Because their seichel is already completely entrenched in it. So the rain is not going to get through so easily. It's going to be much harder for the rain to get through. In that itself, the question is what level of Pirush HaMilas? Pirush HaMilas is multi-layered. There's davening in Olam HaSiyah. There's davening in Olam... It's the same davening, the same text. What one person sees in the text, another person doesn't see in the text. What one person sees in a Rashi, another person doesn't see in Rashi. One person can learn the Gemara in Olam HaSiyah, another person in a deeper level of Asiyah, a deeper level, more, and then you have a new world Yitzir, and you have a new world Bri, and you have a new world Atzilus, etc. These are all different levels in the home. But the common denominator is that they're building a home, not a courtyard, because the Oisius have a roof. Why do they have a roof? Because it's not just Oisius of Machshava, it's Oisius of Machshava that are containing Seichel.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.